All right. Well, now that it's a couple days past since the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, fucking phone, Jesus Christ. So sorry for that interruption. um, now that it's a couple days since the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight, um, you know, the debate's going to go on for a couple weeks. The rebroadcast of the fight's going to be this Saturday on Showtime. Um, Regardless of who you think won the fight, this was a great fight. This was a good fight for boxing. This was good for both fighters. Again, I thought very strongly at the end of this fight, Tyson Fury won this fight. I had him winning 9 of the 12 rounds. At the bare minimum, I say 8. Um, I thought it was hard to take this away from Tyson Fury. But with that being said, that doesn't mean that I have anything against Deontay Wilder. I mean, Deontay Wilder fought his ass off. And for him to come back later in that fight and score 2 knockdowns after being outboxed for the first 3 quarters of the fight, that takes a lot of character. And I said this on the Ringside Reporter podcast. I know a lot of times we have these factions in the sport. And I know there's a lot of Deontay Wilder fans. I know there's a lot of Tyson Fury fans. We got the U.S. versus the U.K. But just because I think Tyson Fury clearly won this fight, that doesn't mean that I'm disparaging Deontay Wilder in any way. I mean, he didn't score this fight, and obviously, he's going to think he won because, he fought his ass off and he feels as though he landed the harder punches. Regardless of all that, this was a great fight, and the rematch is going to be even better. And I stand by what I said before when I did my original breakdown of this fight on the Ringside Reporter podcast. I said that even a 75% Tyson Fury could beat Deontay Wilder and even Anthony Joshua. And that's no disrespect to either of those fighters. That's just how high, in regard I hold Tyson Fury. Because Tyson Fury, I thought, boxed Vladimir Klitschko's ears off. I had him winning 9 of those 3 rounds in that fight as well. But this was a Klitschko who was at the top of his game, supposedly hadn't lost in 10 years, and he was a big puncher as well. And he was thought to have been able to knock out Tyson Fury easily, just like this fight, it was said. But Deontay Wilder is a harder puncher than Vladimir Klitschko, I think. I think he's a more aggressive fighter than Vladimir Klitschko. So this was a different style of fight. But, Vladimir Klitschko is a little bit more technical. But see, the thing is people are going to sit there and criticize Deontay Wilder for not having great boxing skills. But in some respects, that's his advantage, because how do you train for a guy that throws punches from left field? How do you prepare for a guy that isn't orthodox? Because when you're in the gym, you're basically training to fight a guy who has, top level boxing skills, because that's the level of fighting that you're in, basically. And that's not to disparage Deontay Wilder, but regardless of if you want to criticize the style or not, the style is very effective. And a lot of times people say all he has is a puncher's chance, but that puncher's chance seems to occur in each and every one of his fights. So it's just not a lucky, instance, because he fought a defensive genius in there, and he still was able to land that right hand twice very hard and put Fury down. And he was, a second away from winning that fight by stoppage. So I'm going to give him full credit, even though I thought he lost the fight. And I'm not going to sit there and say the guy is an amateur. He's this, he's that. Windmill Wilder. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's effective. A lot of fighters throughout the years have not been pretty boxers. They have not been prototypical technical boxers, and they've still were able to win fights. I can go down the list of fighters who weren't really overly technical and overly slick and good defensive fighters. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, this was a win-win, and the rematch is going to be even bigger. I'm looking forward to it. Well, let's talk about these pay-per-view numbers. It's being reported that they're going to be upwards of 300,000 pay-per-view buys. I predicted that this fight would do 300,000 pay-per-view buys, but I also said that I hope it did more than that. I'm rooting for it to do more than that. It looks like it's going to be maybe in between 300 and 4,000. Possibly it'll be in the 350 range, because usually the projections, the numbers usually go up from there because they haven't counted everything. So they're saying right now the early projections, but they haven't counted all the satellite buys yet. Right now it stands, they're saying 320,000, possibly higher than that. Could be closer to 4, who knows? But if anyone's going to sit there and criticize those numbers, that they're ridiculous, because this is an awesome, awesome showing for both men. Let's say the number sits at 350, 360,000 pay-per-view buys. Okay? When it's all said and done, when everything's counted. Keep in mind, Floyd Mayweather in his first pay-per-view did 340,000 pay-per-view buys. I know you're going to say, well, that was a long time ago. You know, who cares, blah, blah, blah. But you have to understand one thing. Back in those days, the piracy of these pay-per-views was real hard to do. It was hard to stream fights back then because there wasn't a lot of internet access back then. That's when the internet was kind of just starting to boom a little bit. And that was back in 2005. That's just, that's when all the YouTube came out and all the illegal streams. There wasn't as many illegal streams back in 2005 as there is in 2018. So just think of all the people that pirated this fight. And if they didn't pirate this fight, even if half of those people that streamed this fight decided to actually purchase the pay-per-view, you could easily add, and I'm just projecting, this is just my opinion, another 100,000 pay-per-view buys on top of what they have already. So back in the in the Mayweather days, when they first started out, when Mayweather first started in his first pay-per-view, like I said, there wasn't the ability to stream as easily as it is now. Like there's tons of links out there of that people can get and stream fights. I'm sure many of you and even I have been guilty. 99.9% of the time I pay for the pay-per-views, but I will confess that Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, I wasn't going to pay for that, so I did stream that, and I apologize to Tito and Chuck because I like both guys, but I just wasn't going to pay for that. So at the end of the day, this is a success. It's a huge success, and once again, Deontay Wilder has proven Eddie Hearn wrong. I mean, after this, Deontay Wilder definitely has enhanced his profile. Definitely. Look at all the shows, the sports shows he's been on since this fight. He was even on a late night show with the guy's named James Corbin, CBS. So this guy's getting a lot of exposure. And in the next fight, I don't doubt for a second the next fight will not do close to 1 million pay-per-view buys. I'm thinking in upwards of 850,000 to 1 million pay-per-view buys. It's a pretty good estimate that this fight could do 1 million pay-per-view buys next time out. I think it could very well do 1 million pay-per-view buys next time out, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. And I'm rooting for it. So even though I very strongly believe Tyson Fury won this fight, it's no knock on Deontay Wilder. It's really no knock on Deontay Wilder. I mean, Deontay Wilder has shown in a lot of fights early on that he can be outboxed. But for a guy that weighed 209 pounds the night of the fight, going up against a guy that weighed 260 pounds, bigger than him, and being able to knock that guy down the way he knocked him down in the 12th round, that is incredible power. I mean, think about it. Like Tyson in his prime, if he didn't get you out of there early, chances are, or chances were, I should say, the fight was going to go the distance. Now, there's a lot of fighters out there that don't carry their power late in fights. And this was a guy who was missing a lot of punches early on. And this was a guy that had 260 pounds grabbing him and leaning on him for 11 rounds. And he was getting frustrated. You could see in his face, he was getting frustrated. And for him to be able to muster up that intestinal fortitude and deliver that punch in the 12th round, because I didn't think Fury was getting up. I thought that fight was over. I thought that fight was over. So by him being able to get up from that, that was incredible in my opinion. And you know, I never expected Deontay Wilder to go in there and put a boxing lesson up. And all you guys are sitting there saying, "Oh, he was exposed," that's a bunch of fucking bullshit, because he's always fought that way, always. And at the end of the day, that power is not going anywhere. That power is not going anywhere. And you know, he said that he was a little nervous. It was his first pay-per-view fight, a little over anxious, I should say. And you know, when you got your adrenaline flowing up like that, and you know, throughout the whole build-up of the fight, you know, you burn off a lot of energy, and your metabolism speeds up. So that could contribute to him coming in light like that, because he's fought as high as 222 pounds in most of his fights, 219, 220, 222 pounds. For him to come in light like that, you have to wonder, like, is that a lot of nervous energy? Is that a lot of adrenaline? Is that like he was pumped up, you know? And again, first pay-per-view, and you know, that can burn off calories. That can, you know, certainly burn off calories, because when your adrenaline's flowing that high, you lose your appetite. You don't want to eat as much, and you couple that with hard, intense training, you're going to come in lighter. You're going to come in lighter. So I think the next fight, he'll probably be heavier. I would expect him to weigh about 220 pounds in the next fight. And you know, no disrespect to Andre Ward. I love Andre Ward. One of my favorite fighters of all time. He's definitely in my top 3 or 4. Love the guy. And you could say that you thought Tyson Fury won, but to go out there and say, "Oh, I don't think Deontay Wilder wants any part of Tyson Fury now." With all due respect to Andre Ward, that was one of the most ridiculous statements that I've ever heard, because why would he not want to fight Tyson Fury again, knowing that the rematch would be huge? And not only that, knowing that he was less than a second away from winning that fight by knockout. Why would he not want to fight Tyson Fury again? Why would he not? So I think, you know, with respect to Andre Ward, you know, it's cool if you want to say, "Hey, I think Tyson Fury clearly won the fight," whatever, that's fine. But to sit there and say that, I don't think that Deontay Wilder wants any part of Fury again. He's a little bit out of line with that. I thought that was kind of a crazy statement, in my opinion. But let's get to another point about the injuries that Deontay Wilder had said he suffered. I think he said his arm was broke or something during training camp, and was slight fracture. I don't know the whole gist of it, but I listened to the conference call yesterday, and you know, he mentioned that he hurt his arm. You know, I get it. Whatever. I think he said his hand was hurt as well. Here's another thing to look at, though. You know, Deontay Wilder's hurt his hand a few times. He's had some injuries. And in my opinion, you know, because of how he throws those punches, because they're so unorthodox and not thrown properly, and a lot of times it's coming like this and they're landing weird. Because of that, you know, you could get injured. I mean, a lot of times, you know, you see guys in the gym not throw punches properly. Even when I used to hit the bag, first started out trying to learn how to box, I noticed when I didn't put my full body weight into the punches and I just threw arm punches, you know, my joints started to hurt me more, because I'm forcing my joints to shoulder more of the you know, the impact of my hand hitting the bag, instead of putting my body into it and putting my full body into it, my hips, my shoulder, you know, and you know, my legs into the punch. I didn't feel as much joint pain when I did that. But because Deontay Wilder is somewhat orthodox and doesn't throw all of the punches correctly, that could attribute to some of his injuries, in training camp and even in fights. So that's something to look at now and for future fights, because that could be a problem for him, definitely. But with that being said, even though a lot of times he was throwing that right hand wide and he was overshooting it a few times, we've seen it, in several fights when he does throw it the right way, look at the results he gets. He did throw it straight in the 12th round. That was a beautiful right hand in the 12th round. And look what happens. So it's not like he fights the whole fight throwing those haymakers. There's times when he can sit down and throw proper 1-2s. And even the left hook, I have to admit that the left hook was better than I've seen it. You can tell he was working on that. The defense is definitely not improved. Even Anthony Joshua gets hit a lot. So if anyone's going to look at this fight and say, well, Anthony Joshua definitely is going to beat Deontay Wilder, I mean, I still favor Joshua, and I favored him from the get-go, but I'm not 100% confident that he will win that fight. I think it's like a 55-45 fight, in my opinion. I used to think it was wider than that, but Joshua gets hit. We've seen him get hit in a lot of fights. Povetkin hurt him. Povetkin blooded I think he blooded his nose up or whatever. Busted his face a little bit. And Povetkin pushed him back. Parker hit him with a good right hand. Klitschko knocked him down. So if anyone thinks that after this performance that should change your mind about how Deontay Wilder would look against Anthony Joshua, I know the argument, Joshua hits harder than Fury. Yeah, but Joshua doesn't have the defensive Fury either. So if Wilder gets to Joshua, he can stop Joshua. So the big difference in this fight is Joshua is not as tall as Fury. Definitely not as defensively sound as Fury. Does not move as well as Fury, and I don't even think he's as fast as Fury. I think Fury's got quicker hands because he doesn't put so much on the punch. Because Joshua puts so much on punches, I think that takes away from his hand speed at times. I'm not saying he has slow hands, but I think that the Fury fight for Wilder is a much harder fight than the Joshua fight would be. So this doesn't change my mind of how Joshua Wilder fight will play out, because I think Fury would beat Joshua too, because I don't think Joshua hits as hard as Wilder. I don't. I really don't. And I don't think he's as fast as Wilder either. I don't think he's as quick on his feet as Wilder. And Joshua, like I said, very stiff with the upper body movement. Throws punches a lot of times, and particularly with that jab, when he throws that jab out there, it gets lazy. He'll leave it out there. You could definitely come over the top of that jab with a right hand. Definitely. And Fury was, in my opinion, 75% in that fight. Like that's just my opinion. He can come in 10 pounds lighter than what he showed. He could be even faster than when he showed in the rematch. He could be even sharper than what he showed in the rematch. This is a guy that abused his body. Now he spent a great deal of time in shape now. So now his body's getting acclimated again to being in shape, being conditioned, not being obese anymore. Now he can start camp for another fight already at a respectable weight. And Fury is only 30 years old. Deontay Wilder is actually older than Fury. So Fury can get much better. Fury can be closer to that 100% in the rematch by a mile. So in the rematch, Wilder's going to have his hands full. Now, with that being said, Wilder may look at the tape and he may settle down a little bit. He may not be as wild or as aggressive. He may, be a little bit more calculated and pick and choose the spots better. So he could be a little bit better, but Fury can be a ton better. So you take that into account, and I think Fury wins the rematch much cleaner. I don't think that there'll be a draw next time. I think Fury wins the fight going away next time, in my opinion, with all due respect to Wilder. But again, I could be wrong. Either way, it's going to be a great fight, to be a huge fight. People are going to want to see it. I'm definitely going to want to see it. And I think this is a win for boxing. And Eddie Hearn, once again, this fight stole the show. And the rematch will crush anything Joshua does in the future. Who's Joshua going to fight? The winner of Dillian White, Derek Chisora? I'll watch it, but I won't be as hyped for that fight as I will be for Fury Wilder 2. I'll tell you that for sure. I definitely won't be as pumped up for that. So I think this was a win for Wilder. This is a win for Fury, and we'll see what's going to happen in April with Joshua. Was that a smart move to lock that date in, not knowing what was going to happen with this fight, not knowing what was going to play out with the rest of the division? You know, they planned that fight out too far ahead, whereas now Fury and Wilder definitely aren't going to be ready by April. So if they didn't lock in that date, they could have, you know, put threw their hat in the ring and try to get Wilder or Fury for a fight in May or June or July. But now, since they have that date locked in for April, I don't think it's plausible. I don't think it's plausible. So I think Eddie Hearn overplayed his hand in this one. And again, this isn't an Eddie Hearn, you know, bashing session, but I'm just telling the truth. I just think that he overplayed his hand. I think, you know, Joshua made the wrong move by allowing himself to get locked into that date for April, because now he can't get a fight. He can't get a fight with Wilder or Fury next. I don't see Wilder or Fury wanting to get back in there in April. They need to rest. That was a hard fight. May's the earliest. Probably June is the rematch. Probably June or July is going to be the rematch. I suspect maybe July, because they're going to want to maximize the promotion of this fight. They're going to want to really do a press tour. They want to have these guys really, you know, promote themselves, go on some shows, put themselves out there, get a good venue. So now if they put this fight in Vegas, it's a no-brainer. They put this fight in Vegas, T-Mobile Arena or something like that, no-brainer. No-brainer. Thing would do huge numbers. They can jack up the prices a little bit too, because it's in Vegas, and this thing would be a home run. Low Blow Champ says Fury will fight the exact same. Yeah, I probably will fight the exact same, but he'll be sharper in the way he does it. He's not going to change his style, but he can sharpen it up a little bit. Hey, Beeb, do you think Fury will be more timid of Wilder's power? Absolutely not. I think he'll be more confident of it because he got up from it. He got up from it. I think he'll be a little bit more sharper. I think he'll be sharper. He'll have more of his timing back. But even a 75% Fury, which is what we saw that night, won that fight, in my opinion. You know? So I think Fury will definitely be more confident in the rematch. Reese Mack asks me, can Breland make those necessary adjustments in Wilder's game? Wilder can only be tweaked so much. You know, when he's in the, you know, in the heat of battle, I think his adrenaline kicks in and his instincts kick in, and you know, he gets a little bit overzealous in there with the punches. So, you know, it is what it is. Reese Maxine, you just give Fury credit for getting back up. Oh, that's one of the things I give Fury credit for. I also give him credit for boxing Deontay Wilder's ears off in the first 8 rounds of the fight. Because after 8 rounds, I only had Deontay Wilder winning 1 round on my card. So I guess I give him credit for that as well. So not just for getting up. Okay, he caught everyone else, including Fury. Yeah, I mean, this. You asked me a question: will Fury be more timid? Meaning that would affect his confidence going into the rematch. Well, I'm going to flip the script on you and ask you: will Wilder be less confident knowing that he landed his money punch that no one else has ever gotten up from, and this guy got up from it? Will that change his mindset going into the rematch? And he's saying he's going to lay back a little bit. So by him laying back a little bit and not fighting as aggressive, because as aggressive as he fought, he still was only throwing one punch at a time, and his output wasn't great. So can he win the rematch if he lowers his punch output? I'm going to say no, because before this fight, I said that Tyson Fury would slow this fight down to a snail's pace. And even though he did slow this fight down to a snail's pace, it was still very, very entertaining. Had a lot of drama, had a lot of ebbs and flows to it. So I think if Deontay Wilder fights less aggressively, it's only going to play into Fury's hands. I don't see Wilder winning this rematch. I don't. So people are saying because the Joshua fight is an easier fight, should he just forget Fury and go in with Joshua? Nah. Because at the end of the day, if he loses to Fury, I think they can turn around and say, well, okay, I lost to Fury, but Fury's better than you too, Joshua. So until you beat Fury, I still think I'm better than you, Joshua, because I lost to the best heavyweight. Wilder can turn around and say, I lost. I'm number one. I mean, excuse me, he's number one. I'm number two. You're number three, Joshua. So there's an argument can be made now that Fury's number one. I think he's number one, but again, my opinion, not etched in stone. There's enough opinions to go around that. Some people are going to have Wilder number one now. Some people are going to have Fury number one now. And some people are going to have Joshua number one now. So this just injected about 500 milligrams of adrenaline into this heavyweight division. This just jacked this heavyweight division to the nines right now. This is incredible how great this division is now. That with the way this fight played out and Fury's performance. So you can argue, and this is a stretch. And I know people are going to say, "Oh, B, you're crazy," but you can argue that Deontay Wilder is one of the hardest punchers of all time. Think about it: a guy who weighed 212 pounds, what he was able to do to a guy that was 6'9", 260, giving up that weight. Name another guy that's given up that much weight, and he's can knock guys down and almost put them out. Well, he has put guys out that have outweighed him significantly, but almost put a guy out that weighed 260 pounds like that. And the guy was skilled. He's definitely one of the hottest hitters. That's why he made this fight. No, I'm saying of all time. I'm saying of all time. I'm not just saying now. I mean, as far as one punch power goes, I've never seen a guy do what he does, and he does it late in fights too. He does it late in fights. His power is just as hard in round 12 as it is in round 1. Oh, okay, you're agreeing with me, low blow check. Okay, yeah. I mean, think about it. Sonny Liston, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, Ernie Shafis. Ernie Shafis hit Larry Holmes, knocked him down. Larry Holmes got up, but he hit Larry Holmes like earlier than the 12th. And Larry Holmes didn't look like he was dead when Ernie Shafis hit him. His eyes didn't roll back in his head. He didn't look like he was dead for about 5 seconds. Tyson Fury looked like he was dead for 5 seconds. You know what he looked like? He looked like a guy that's lying on the operating table, and people take the EMS machine or whatever and shock you, go boom like that, and wake you up. That's what looked like. That's what it looked like happened to Tyson Fury. He looked like he was dead, and he had to be shocked or stuck with an adrenaline shot to bring him back to life. I've never seen that before in my life. That was fucking incredible. That was fucking incredible, man. You know, more technique. Lobo Champ says more technique is what Wilder needs. If he knew how to punch, he could land more often. Yeah, but again, if you try to make him too technical, then that element of surprise, that unorthodox way he throws punches. See it. I think someone else said in the chat that that's a blessing and a curse, because how do you train for a guy that throws punches like that? You just don't see guys do that very often. Like Prince Nassim Hamed was another guy who was wild and didn't do things the orthodox way. So that's why he's more of a challenge sometimes than a guy who's a technical guy would be. You know, you could, like Fury would have an easier time with Josh. Like styles make fights. And I think Wilder would have an easier time with Joshua because Joshua's defense is not as good as Fury. But I also think Fury would have an easier time with Joshua because Joshua doesn't hit as hard and Joshua is not as unorthodox. He can see a lot of the shots from Joshua coming because they're coming from a delivery standpoint of what he's used to seeing, from a delivery system of what he's used to seeing. When you got a guy who's going like this, and then you're sitting there going, okay, I got to prepare for these, I got to go like this. Then all of a sudden, he decides to throw it the right way. You're sitting there saying, oh, shit, he switched it up on me. So it's harder to prepare for a guy like that, man. It's harder to prepare for a guy like that, in my opinion. So, yeah, Fury getting up is something we will never be able to explain. Yeah, you know, this is going to be a highlight reel. This is eternal. This is going to be eternal. This is going to be a never-ending highlight reel of Fury's career that will never go away. And Lou DiBella said something very intelligent, and I agree with him 100%. He was 100% right when he said this, talking about how promoting a rematch would be. All he has to do is just show that one clip, and that in itself is going to get him 1 million pay-per-view eyes. Guess what? I agree with him 110%. I agree with him 110%. You know, this doesn't hurt Wilder at all. You know, Wilder is not exposed. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's a bunch of bullshit. He's always fought like this, and he's always, you know, in a great deal of fights, and a great portion of fights has been outboxed, and he does land that punch. So it's not just a lucky punch anymore. It's not a puncher's chance, because guess what? He's doing it to everyone now. He just did it to the best defensive boxer in the heavyweight division. He could land 2 shots like that against the best. There's no one in this division that is defensively sound as Tyson Fury. No one. No one. And if he was able to do that, against the best defensive fighter in the division, guy who was bigger and taller and much heavier than him, and get the result he got, then he could do that to anybody. Anybody. And if you don't think he's going to land a right hand against Anthony Joshua, then I don't know what to tell you, man. You may have been sleeping under a rock for the last couple of years, because he does it, lands it on everybody. On everybody. So, you know, the Joshua Wilder fight could be more entertaining, but it could end earlier. So it's less bang for the buck. Do I want to see that fight someday? Yeah, but I'd rather see the rematch with Fury first. I really would. And again, like I said, if Wilder does lose the rematch, doesn't rule out a Joshua fight. Doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. I agree with you. What you need, he would definitely do it more easier, landing that right hand against Joshua they did against Fury. Beeb, do you think Joshua will have to go to the body like he did against Vlad to break Wilder down? Yeah, but is he going to want to take that risk of going to the body and leaving his face exposed to the right hand? Because you have to understand, Joshua doesn't always start out, like in the last couple of fights, Joshua started out very slowly. Very slowly. You know, Povetkin was winning rounds. Povetkin was in that fight before he got knocked out. He was in that fight. You know, Parker, you can say what you want, but you can argue that Parker won about 5 rounds in that fight. You can argue Parker won 5 rounds in that fight. I had him winning 4. I had it 116, 112. But you could argue that it could, you know, it was a close fight. You could argue that. So Joshua starts out slow and he doesn't start out as fast as Wilder. It's not as aggressive as Wilder. So he could give away a lot of early rounds against Fury. And he can give away a lot of early rounds against Wilder. He's giving away early rounds against other fighters. You know, a lot of people had him down on the cards when he fought Klitschko. A lot of people, you know, I think I had him down. Let me see if I still have that scorecard in that Povetkin fight. See if I saved that. Yeah, I scored Joshua Parker 116 and 112. Let me look at that. And I actually gave Parker in the Joshua fight the first 2 rounds. And I gave him, yeah, I had the fight in that Joshua Parker fight. In the first 6 rounds, I had an even fight. I had it even in the first 6 rounds in the Parker fight with Joshua Parker. And then Joshua pulled away after the 7th round. I actually gave Parker the 7th, and I gave Joshua 8, 9, 10, 11. I gave Joshua the last 5 rounds of the fight. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I gave him the last 5 rounds of the fight. So that's what did it. That's what did it for me. That's how he won. So like I said, he starts out slow. The fight was even after 6 on my card, anyways. I know the fucking UK judges. I don't know what the fuck they, you know, how they score fights, but let me see if I can find. Yeah, Joshua Povetkin. See, at the time of that stoppage in the Povetkin fight on my card, I had Povetkin winning the first 3 rounds. You can argue maybe he won the first 2 rounds, and I had Povetkin winning the 5th. So I had at the time of the stoppage after 6, I had Joshua only winning 2 rounds in the first 6 rounds of that fight. My card was 58-56 for Povetkin at the time of the stoppage. So Joshua starts slow, guys. Joshua starts slow. So anyone thinks that Joshua's going to have an easy time with either one of these guys, I vehemently disagree. Michael Cooper asks me, Beeb, do you think it's a good possibility that the British judge was fixed to build up the storyline in the Fury-Wilder fight? That's a stretch. Do I think that? Probably not, but I see where you're going with that. You never know what's going on, man. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. You never do. Suleiman says Tyson Fury needs to increase his punching power to become a great heavyweight champion again. I disagree, Suleiman. Larry Holmes was not a great puncher. He was a decent puncher. Muhammad Ali was not a great puncher. Holyfield was a good puncher, but he didn't have freakish power either. There's a lot of heavyweights out there that were not great punchers. So, you know, does he need to increase his punching power? Well, here's the thing. If he loses some more weight, he gets a little sharper, you can argue that his punches will be sharper in the rematch. He'll have sharper punches. He'll be able to, land more. And, you guys, again, you underestimate the power of a heavyweight boxer. He landed a couple right hands in that fight that had Deontay Wilder holding him. He hurt. Don't make the mistake of believing that Tyson Fury can't hurt Wilder. He hurt him, especially that 12th round. Like 12th round, after he got up, he landed a right hand, and even before that knockdown, he landed a right hand, and Wilder was hurt. Wilder held him a few times in that fight. Yeah, that's what I just said. What you mean? The 12th round, he hurt Wilder. Yeah, that's what I said. Before the knockdown and after the knockdown, he hit him with good right hands, and he buckled him a little bit, man. Wilder respected Fury's power. That's 100% correct, Justin Valentine. I agree with you 110%. He did. He did respect his power, without question. definitely. So I think this pay-per-view is a success. I think the rematch will be even better. Um, I think Tyson Fury will be significantly better. Wilder could be slightly better. I don't think he could be significantly better, but I think Wilder is always going to be a little over anxious in there. I've seen it in all his fights. And I think that's been his greatest. It's like someone else said in the chat. That's his blessing, and it's a curse. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to happen, and I think Andre Ward was incorrect for saying that that Wilder is not going to want the rematch because I just don't think Wilder's built that way. Wilder said he's a real dude, and I think he's a real dude, man. I like Deontay Wilder a lot. I do, man. I love his story. Um, I root for Deontay Wilder. I think he's good for boxing. I think he's a good person. I don't know him personally, but I get that vibe that he's a real dude, man. I get that vibe that he's a real dude. Now, with that being said, does that mean I think he won the fight? No, but that's no shade. That's no shade on him. I have mountains of respect for this guy for being able to do what he did in the ninth round and the 12th round and not giving up. Because I could tell by the look on his face in a lot of those rounds. Dude was frustrated, man. The dude was frustrated. Definitely was frustrated. What you need says Wilder can box. Oh, he beat Luis Ortiz. I had Luis Ortiz winning the fight before he got stopped. Let me see if I can find my scorecard there because I got a whole bunch of these scorecards saved on this phone. Let's take a look at that Wilder. Yeah, Wilder Ortiz. Let's take a look at my scorecard there. I gave Ortiz the first 4 rounds of that Wilder fight. I gave Wilder rounds 5 and 6, and I gave him round 10. So I gave him round 9. Excuse me. Gave Wilder round 5, 6, and 9, and obviously he was knocked out in the 10th. I had Ortiz winning that fight up until the stoppage. He was up 86-84 on my card. So again, these are a lot of fights where Wilder's power did bail him out late. So he was outboxed early in that fight too. So yeah, Beeb, remember the Suleiman saying, Beeb, remember the first fight between Anafermo and Marvin Hagler, which ended in a draw. It was a great fight, and Hagler won the rematch as a champion. Well, I thought Hagler should have won the first fight, in my opinion, against Anafermo, but Anafermo did hold his own in that fight without question. It wasn't like Anafermo was getting blown out, but yeah, it is a lot of similarities. I agree, but I had Anafermo losing that fight first time around as well. So yeah, it was a great fight, man. I'm pumped up for the rematch, man. I'm still pumped up for I'm still buzzing, I should say. Excuse me. I'm still buzzing from the first fight, and I'm going to be even more pumped up for the rematch. And I'm dying to see what Eddie Hearn does now, and who he pulls out of his hat to fight Anthony Joshua in April. That's going to be interesting, man. That is going to be interesting. Wilder set a trap for Ortiz, and he ran right into the red. Yeah, I agree. I mean, people are going to sit there and criticize Wilder about his technique or whatever, but there is a method to his madness, without question. Like every now and then, he settles down, and when he controls that adrenaline, he can set those shots up, man. There's no question about it. And that was a pit. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. And that 12th round, that was a perfect, right hand, left hook combination. Threw it perfectly. He threw it perfectly. So you got to give him credit for that. You can't sit there and say the guy doesn't know what he's doing. The guy's this, that, the guy's that. Again, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be pretty, man. Does not have to be pretty. So at the end of the day, man, it is what it is, man. This is who Wilder is. Will he change? I doubt it. I doubt it, but it is what it is. All right, guys, that's about it. Thank you for joining me in the chat. Thank you for your questions. Before I go, does anyone else have any more questions they want to ask? Because I'm gonna jet out of here and finish the rest of my day. But does anyone else have any questions for me in the chat? All right. Well, until next time, Beav is out. And always remember, don't forget to check us out on the Ringside Reporter podcast every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We recap the week's fights. And yeah, check us out. Call in, ask us questions, and chop it up with us, man. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to y'all soon. Peace out. Thank you, Suleiman. Thank you, everyone.